Hello there, I'm Lord Theranis, and welcome back to our journey through the world of the Elder Scrolls. Today, we're going to be taking our journey into Nirn's mythology even further forward in history, as we examine the Atardic beings that serve as gods to the mortals of Tamriel, the Divines. So please, join me as we turn the pages of the Mysterium Xarxes and dive into Bethesda's grand creation. Now, before we go into the specifics of the Divines, there's one last general point to cover still. If you've been watching the videos I put out for these on top of just listening to me, then firstly, I sincerely apologise. As you can probably tell, I'm a much better writer than I am a video editor. However, if you have persevered through my amateur video skills, you'll have noticed me using this image from Lukar of the Skywind team whenever I'm discussing the Aedra. Now, it is a generally accurate image. It encompasses all the major Aedric figures that we see in the games, but not every figure on it is actually an Aedra. Or rather, they weren't one of the original Aedra who contributed to the construction of Mundus. Things get a little bit complicated when we start talking about gods and achieving godhood in the Elder Scrolls. Another tale, another time, all that jazz. What this image actually represents is the 9 Divines of Tamriel, the 8 gods worshipped across the land, and their controversial late entry. Most of the Divines deserve, and will get in time, their own videos dedicated specifically to them. However, for now, I want to go over the basics of each Divine, and the various aspects they bring to the world of Nirn. We start the list at the top, both alphabetically and organisationally, with the King of the Gods, Akatosh. Unlike some of the other Divines, Akatosh's realm of rule is clear and simple. He is the god of time. Intrinsically and innately connected to the ageless, near-undying dragons, Akatosh is typically represented as a dragon himself. Indeed, the avatar of Akatosh that we see in the final moments of Oblivion's main quest is a giant flaming dragon of immense power. Another point particularly special to Akatosh is that he's the only deity other than Lorcan to appear in nearly every pantheon in Tamriel. Auriel, Alkosh, Akatosh, Borhamu, all of these names refer to a draconic entity in control of the flow of time. Next, we have Arche, the god of the Wheel of Life. Arche's sphere is anything concerning the cyclical progression of life and death. His position as the god presiding over death and funerals is inherently obvious from that, but he's also the god of the seasons. It's not just mortal life that lives and dies. Arche is particularly invoked in lore when it comes to matters of the undead. Necromancy and its resulting creatures are seen as an affront to Arche in their very existence. Vampires in particular are said to have been created by the Daedra Molag Bal as a specific effort to spite Arche, denying him the cycle by creating creatures that will never die naturally. Now we come to Dibella. Dibella is the goddess of beauty and art, along with being one of the goddesses associated with healing in the lore. Whilst we don't hear as much about Dibella in the games, she's noted in lore as being one of the more popular gods in Tamriel. The fact that many of her worshippers are dedicated to the, let's call them exotic arts of beauty, might have just a little bit to do with that. Now comes Julianus, the god of logic, wisdom, and the arts of magic. Arts of is important here. Magnus is considered the god of magic as a force on Nirn. Julianus is the god of the various ways magic can be wielded. Julianus is probably the god that's least expanded on in the games. The most we really know about him is that his temples act as educational and scholarly institutes dedicated to learning. After Julianus, we come to Kynareth, the goddess of the heavens and the elements. Often seen as a nature goddess, and worshipped particularly by the Nordic pantheons as the wilderness goddess Kine, Kynareth is worshipped by those whose fortunes rely on the will of the elements. This makes her a popular goddess among sailors, for example. She's also got a connection to Arche's sphere of cyclical life. She acts as the new life that springs up to begin the cycle anew after Arche's cull of the old. We see quite a bit of Kynareth in the games, acting in a variety of capacities, such as the Dragonborns dealing with White One's Gildegleam, a child of Kynareth's sacred Eldergleam tree. From a goddess of life, we move on to a goddess of love, Mara. Mara's sphere is everything that makes us happy, everything good about the human soul. Love, compassion, caring, Mara presides over them all. She's also a goddess of fertility, both human and natural. She presides over the bounty of nature, blessing farmers with good harvests, and also serves as the goddess of marriage. I think you can see how that might be applicable to her sphere. Mara is so interlinked with marriage that, in fact, in Skyrim, wearing an amulet of Mara is effectively seen as an invitation to proposal. Stendarr, the steadfast god of mercy, justice and righteousness, is next up. Stendarr's sphere is pretty simple. He acts to protect the weak and reward those who fight where those less fortunate cannot. This isn't just meant in a physical aspect though. Judges and similar figures who decide the fates of men and women under their care also fall into Stendarr's sphere. Stendarr has fairly prominently been seen in the games through his Vigilants of Stendarr, who seek, or rather sought I suppose, to bring justice across the land, with a particular focus on punishing the worshippers of Daedra. Last in the alphabet, but not on our listings, is Zenithar. Zenithar is perhaps a slightly simple god compared to his peers, but he's no less important to mortal life. Zenithar serves as the god of work, commerce and wealth. From skilled craftsmen to great business trade caravans, Zenithar protects and ensures the prosperity and good health of those who commit themselves to honest business, rather than any violent means or deceitful business tactics to get ahead. Now that covers the 8, the Divines recognised across Tamriel. Finally though, there is the 1. Talos, the ascended mortal whose mere presence in the Pantheon is a highly contentious subject in universe, to the point of quite literally causing wars. In life, Talos was Tiber Septim, founder of the Septim Empire and conqueror/unifier of all Tamriel. Or at least he was one of the many people whose actions contributed to the legend of Tiber. The lore's not so clear on the subject of just how much of Tiber's deeds were actually done by one man. Upon death, these deeds were supposedly so great that he apotheosized, and ascended to the heavens as a godly spirit, becoming Talos, the 9th divine. Or at least that's what the races of men tend to believe. To the elves, particularly the Altmer of the Somerset Isle, Talos is a mere pretender at godhood, and the idea that any mortal could ascend to the realm of the Aedra, blasphemy in and of itself. Talos is a confusing issue, likely deliberately so, and that's not even getting into the strange relationship of godhood and time in the Elder Scrolls, where retroactive powers mean that a god can establish themselves as always having existed, even before they actually existed. Suffice to say, that is another tale for another time. The Divines are a big topic in the Elder Scrolls, and one of the few mainstays in the series. While settings, characters and situations change vastly between the games, you can always count on the presence of the Divines forming a major part of the characterization and portrayals of people and places in the series. While some Divines are portrayed more prominently than others, every Divine is there in some form, and we'll be going into detail about all of that later. But for now, that brings me to the end of this video. On the next page of the Mysterium Xarxes, we'll be looking at the Aedra's much more powerful, much more prone to meddling counterparts, the Daedric Princes. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, it's very much appreciated if you would leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to hear future content. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you next time.